Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Deanna and DeMattio and I'm a real estate agent with eXp Realty, currently serving Florida and Connecticut for all of your real estate needs. So on today's video, I want to go over something pretty fun that I think a lot of agents will take value, and new agents definitely kind of need this information. I want to go over the seller pre-qualification questionnaire. So before you start talking to anyone like super serious about looking to sell, you need to go over a handful of questions just to make sure that you guys are on the same page, that they're serious about selling, that you're gonna be able to kind of work with them. And even if it's a friend of yours, you already know their situation, this kind of just sets you up and gives them that idea that you are a real estate professional and that you know what you're talking about. So there's a handful of questions. I'm gonna put all the questions that I go over down in the little area below with the comments so that you have them to follow off of. I got these questions from a mentor of mine. I will put her content down in the video as well. But I'm gonna go over the questions and why it's important to ask them, because this really does set the stage up for anyone that's thinking about selling their homes. So let's get started. Question number 1. Are you interviewing any other agents, or am I the only one? This is a really good thing to get started off with. You wanna make sure that if they are interviewing any other agents, that you know what they're looking for in an agent, and we will kind of get into those questions in a little bit. But just so you know the competition, some people like to be interviewed first. This way they can really set the stage for what is to be shown for some other interviewees coming up. And some agents like to be interviewed last so that they can be like asking for the business right then and there. So it's really up to you. For me, I think that I give a really great first impression, and I think that I can pretty much, after that first encounter, be like, do you really want to go through interviewing anyone else? Or am I a good fit, and do you think this will work? So that's question number 1. Question number 2 is going to be, where will you be moving once the house sells? So that's very important. It just drives their motivation as to why they're selling the house in the beginning, and you want to keep that motivation in your back pocket. That's something that you can go back to if anything comes up that might not have been planned, like things aren't going as well as they should be. You just gotta continuously focus on driving their motivation to where they're planning on moving. And hopefully it's a good thing. I mean, if it's not a great thing, if they're moving and they don't want to be, that's okay. You can, change up your wording. However, a lot of times people are looking forward to a move. Maybe they're retiring, maybe they're moving closer to their family, kids, something like that, or just to a destination they've always dreamt of going. So, or even just across town to a neighborhood they've been wanting to live in forever. So you got to keep that motivation in your back pocket and use it to your advantage. And also, kind of understand like what's their background a little bit more once you ask them why they're moving and where they're going. So the next one is, if the home sells in less than 30 days, will that be a problem? This is important, especially in a market like today. It's 2021, but in the past year, there's a lot less inventory than there are home buyers. So houses are selling relatively quickly. Now, under 30 days would mean that maybe it's a cash offer or something. Typically with a loan process, it's gonna take up to about 30 days, even a little bit longer. So regardless, you wanna know that if the house sells in 30 days, if that's gonna be a problem or not. Do they have somewhere to go to? Have they already started packing? Do they know where they're gonna put their stuff? If someone's interested in getting into their house like within the next month, that's a big move, and it's exciting as an agent. However, I don't know a lot of people that could just up and go super quickly. So you wanna make sure that their level of motivation is enough that if someone were to buy their house immediately, they would be able to go. And that'll kind of dictate how serious they are in the home selling process. Okay, so question number 4, what price are you thinking you would like to list the property for? This gives you a ballpark number of how they think the market is right now. You as an agent going into asking this questionnaire, even if this is someone you just kind of met at a coffee shop, you should know what prices of houses are selling for in the area that you're working in, depending on the house size and stuff like that, a general ballpark. So they might mention a number that's a lot lower than they'll actually end up getting, or a lot higher. And you don't need to make a lot of commentary on it as soon as you ask the question. Just get their idea of what they're thinking they're gonna profit or make from the sale of their house. And just kind of leave it at that, write it down. The next thing is, what's the lowest price you would take for your house? So it might be the exact same number that they had just said, or it just might be the number that gets them out of a home loan. It might be the number that gives them enough money to go and purchase their next home. So sometimes it differs, and like I said, just write it down. You know, take that number, understand that that's the lowest they're gonna take, and that's gonna be a big qualifying point if you think you can work with them. Because if they're thinking that they can get a lot more out of a home than that's practical, that might not be the best pairing for you. Although you do wanna, you know, sell the house and have a seller and all of that stuff, the likelihood of it selling is a lot less if they think they're gonna get a lot more for it. And with that, you know, it's gonna sit on the market for a while and it's gonna reflect poorly on you. Okay, so question number 6 is, do you currently have a mortgage or is it already paid off? More times than not, they probably have a mortgage that they're gonna have to pay off with the sale of the house. But if it's already paid off, that's great as well. If they do have a mortgage, you do need to see, you know, if there's any, how long they've owned the house. So are there any like prepayment penalties? I know in certain states, you can't turn around and sell a house after purchasing it without some type of repercussions. So that's something you need to consider and help work them through it, or at least send them to a person that can help give them advice, like a lender or even maybe an attorney. The next question is going to be, how much do you owe? So that's also gonna help you understand why they want a certain price for their house. Hopefully the house has gone up and has not depreciated. However, you know, if it has depreciated or if something happened to the house that made it depreciate a little bit, you gotta understand that. So how much do they owe is going to be really important in determining that price point they want it to sell for. The next question is going to just be, please describe your home. So how many beds, how many baths, if there's a garage, what have you done, things like that. So you get an idea and you can kind of start to understand the estimate that they're gonna get for their house, and this is gonna help you make the comparative market analysis. So you might have just met this person, you know, at a coffee shop, like I said, or at the grocery store, or they just called you. So you might have no idea what their house is. If you're not in front of a computer, you might not be able to look it up. So kind of get a good description, and then also ask them like what the pros and cons they think to their house is. So do they love their countertops and they just think that's gonna be a great selling point? Do they have, you know, a bad water heater, they don't wanna replace it? Just things like that. I mean, they might not be super clear and honest with you at this first encounter. However, try and get as much information as you can to give you that kind of ballpark number. The next question, so 9, is gonna be, how would you rate your house on a range from 1 to 10, 10 being like the best kind of brand new condition? And it'll give you that honest opinion of how people think their house is and how it's gonna portray to incoming buyers. And then the next question is gonna be, what would it take to get it to a 10? So even if that might not be extremely practical, they could mention like, okay, I do think we should replace the carpets. Maybe we should paint the walls, and, you know, just agree. If it's anything that could advance their property, just be like, yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. I mean, there's not a lot of insight you really need to provide. However, kind of write these things down. If they, like, there's an area that they could be redoing in the meantime to prepare their house to get it sold, write these things down and really consider if that's gonna make a big difference or not in how the house presents itself. Okay, question 11. So what are you looking for in an agent that you hire? This is really important, because even if that's something that, if they mention something that you might not be able to give, like I need 24/7 communication, and you just know with your super busy schedule that's not practical, that's great. I mean, you might not be able to get the listing. However, you're not going to create a relationship that isn't really going to work for either of you two. Or they could say, you know, I need someone that's communicative. I don't want someone that needs to message me every day, but I would like weekly reports. And you're like, that is exactly what I do. I need someone that markets my house very well. And you could be like, well, I'm great on social media. This is going to work out very well. So you want to be honest with yourself and with the seller. If you don't think it's going to work, you know, stop the relationship right then and there. But hopefully you're finding little keys that they want to see in an agent, and I assume hopefully you will meet what their needs are. All right, question number 12. So any questions that you have for me? they might have a lot and they might not know what to ask. You can kind of just leave it right then and there. This is setting you up for the listing presentation. So by the time you get to the listing presentation, they're kind of already involved in this home selling process, and they probably will have a few other questions. They might have mentioned to their friends, oh, I'm selling my house, or I'm getting ready to sell my house. And you know, just from conversation, they might have a few more questions for you. But right then and there, you know, when this first encounter happens, they might not have a lot of questions. And if there's any like key points you think that is worth valuable to note right then, that would be a good place to note it. Some people do ask commission like front and center, and obviously commission is negotiable, you know, all over the world. But that is definitely a conversation you should be waiting to have after the listing presentation, and definitely after you've made a face-to-face with someone, because a lot of times even this could be over the phone. They're calling your office or the brokerage or something. Question 13 is going to be, will all decision makers be present for our meeting? So decision makers are typically homeowners, or even people that are very close to the family. So it could be a wife and husband, even if the wife's name is the only person on the title and they're gonna be the only person legally selling the house. Obviously both people need to be there for your listing presentation or for your first meeting to kind of go over the specifics. You don't want to set up a meeting time and only have one person there if there are more than one decision makers, and they're just gonna be like, okay, we'll just relay the information. I'll just relay it, you know, to my husband or to my wife. That's great and all, but you really want to be there to present it to both of them. Okay, and the last question is going to be, what is a good email in which I can send all this information over to you? So you're going to be sending over your marketing plan primarily, and maybe your listing presentation, but typically just your marketing plan. You can forward them some of the contracts that they're going to be signing just to give them a little heads up, but just an email that goes over what you're going to do to get their house sold, essentially. They might look at it. Obviously, you know, tell them to look at it. Recommend them take a look before you meet up with them. But other than that, I mean, that's pretty much all you're going to send over. And then you just set a date and time as to when you're going to do your listing presentation. Typically, you'll go over to the house, give yourself a little tour, and then do the presentation. That's definitely a topic for another video. But in today's world, you could also have that meeting online on Zoom or something like that. So those are all the questions. I do think that it is very important that you memorize those as well. This way, you know, if you are stopped, you know, in the middle of a restaurant, or if you are called on a random day and you don't have this paper in front of you, then you have it ready to go, like in the back of your mind. Take out your phone, write down some notes. And this way you'll have a successful first encounter with someone. They're gonna understand that you're working for them in their best interest and that you know what you're doing, essentially. So that is pretty much it for the seller pre-qualification questionnaire. I hope that clarifies a lot of the questions that you should be going over. Like I said, I'm gonna put all the questions down in the little comments area. So go ahead, make yourself a little Word document, leave some space so you can fill it in with every person that you communicate with. And that'll definitely help you set the stage and get you some houses sold. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe, share it, like it, comment, and I will see you on the next one.